What's up? It's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and I'll be talking about the U.S. men's national team U20 team's 4-0 loss to France. It was a very tough game, and yeah, we're not in CONCACAF anymore. We're the just our normal team now. Small fish in the ocean, not a big fish in the pond anymore. So that being said, I actually kind of liked what we were doing this game, especially in the first half. It was very intense, going back and forth. Both teams were creating chances, and we were going for it. We were playing out of the back, and we were really pressing this French team. But France, they were doing extremely well playing out of the back. Like, I don't have the numbers for anybody on France, so I can't talk about them. But they have one guy, 6'9" center back Torre, who should not be able to move around that well and should not be that good on the ball at his height. So, yeah, that's just it is what it is. That French team is very strong. But our press was generating a couple of good moments, and I think there were a lot of positives to take from this game, especially in terms of individual players. But tactically, the way we were set up, it was going to be very difficult for us to win. But I'm not criticizing Mikey Varas for that because I actually really like the way we were set up, even though we weren't going to win. Because trying to play out the back, I think that's what we should be doing, especially in a youth setup, especially in a friendly. And you know, to build out of the back, our midfield really had to drop back deep a lot. You had to have Diego Luna, Alvarado really drop into the midfield to build out of the back to create like an overload to be able to beat that French press. And once the ball got to the attack, it was they were largely isolated and it was very tough to generate chances. So our attack, it's really tough to gauge how they're performing. Again, we weren't set up to win, but I actually like that. On the individual performances, and it was a 4-0 loss. Nobody played truly great, but I saw a lot of glimpses of talent from a lot of players. I think Diego Luna was somebody who really impressed me. He did miss a penalty, but think during the game, he showed a lot of really good energy defensively as well as pressing. Like he was looking like he could play a real number 8 in this game because, a lot of the question about him was he really has the skill, but can he hold up athletically, physically? And he was really holding his own against this French team. A ton of energy pressing. Him and Aronson were really getting on that French defense. And in the midfield, he was putting in some good tackles, and his creativity was still shining through. He had probably one of our best moments where he drilled past a couple of French players. And Diego Luna, he's really looking like he's going to be a top pro player. And with the creativity that he brings to the team, I would love to see him involved with the U.S. men's national team. He's going to have to start to earn a lot of minutes with Real Salt Lake, but I think a winter call up in 2023, like this year, I think that's possible, and I'd really like to see it. Another guy who, oh, two guys who I really liked. It was more their energy with their pressing, but Kevin Paredes and Quinn Sullivan, they were doing really well attacking that French defense. And they were playing out the back very well, but Sullivan and Paredes were making a couple of good chances. Our finishing today was really bad. I already mentioned the missed penalty. Luna, Paredes, Aronson all could have scored a goal today, but just didn't end up happening. But Sullivan was really providing some good pressing and creating a couple good chances. He was another guy who was really doing well with the French physicality. And I do want to mention Paredes had a cross that hit off a hand. He won us the penalty that we missed. So I think those two are playing pretty well. Then Rokas Puskas in the midfield. Not the best game on the ball, but he is at his best when he's further forward, and I would like to see him a bit further forward. I think Obed Vargas is with this team. He came on today. Maybe put him at a 6 in one of these games, allow Puskas to go forward. But defensively, at that 6, he was doing very well, I thought. He was really breaking up some French attacks, and he's not bad on the ball. He was doing very well, too. He had a couple of really nice one-touch passes that I was impressed by. It's just I don't think he's a 6, and he's uncomfortable in that spot. And even though our defense wasn't that great today, I think Thomas Williams showed a good amount of talent. He's a defender who's not been with this team much. He's been with the U19 squad a bit more. He's a left-footed center back. He showed a lot of good on-ball moments. He was very dominant in the air. I liked how he'd pick up the ball and drive into the midfield. Tried a couple of good passes, diagonal balls that really hit their mark most of the time. And despite obviously a bad defensive performance by the U.S. today, I think Williams did show a good bit of talent. I will say that we really missed having Brandon Craig at the defense. He really would have helped out the team. Then Paxton Aronson and Gabriel Sonina, I don't want to call it a positive performance, but not really negative either. Aronson was playing that false nine role, and again, I mentioned our attack was isolated, and he really wasn't getting the ball much. probably could have scored 1 goal, but he wasn't involved in the game. It's tough to take those chances, especially when you're not a striker. But once he did go to a wing position, he was getting a lot more involved, and he looked good. And like the second Darren Yappy came on, he was looking a lot better. So I don't want to call it a bad performance by Aronson. And similarly with Slonina, I think his ability with his feet could needs to improve a lot if he wants to become a much better goalkeeper. But he was making some good saves. Like it was, he got really unlucky on the third and fourth goal, especially. He pulled out a couple of really good saves, but just the deflections happened to go to the French players. It wasn't even like he pushed it right to like a player. Like it's a mistake when goalkeepers do that. He was just getting unlucky. Like Solomino was showing his talent today. He's coming on claiming crosses very well as well, but allowing 4 goals, not showing up well with his feet, that's not the best. And then with the more negative performances, I do want to say when I talk about the negative performances, I think now we're at the point with the U20 players where they're all pros. We can start to criticize them. But I do want to mention that with the performers who weren't at their best today, none of them are playing with the first teams of their squad. So I think that is something to keep in mind that none of these guys are really experienced with first team action. I think both the fullbacks were off today, Jonathan Gomez and Mauricio Cuevas. Gomez was the better of the two. He had a couple of decent moments going forward, but he looked really rusty in the build-up play, especially. He had a couple of bad giveaways, and I don't think he had a couple of decent moments, but his attacking play was really lacking. Then Mauricio Cuevas, he gave away a penalty that was a miss. Slimian was going the right way anyway, but that wasn't the best, and he really wasn't offering too much going forward. A bit disappointing by Cuevas today. Michael Holiday came on as a sub for him, and he got kind of burnt on the third goal. But I think that Holiday should be given a look for the next game. And Justin Shea still available if he comes back from injury. I'd like to see him with the team, though. I honestly like him as a center back more, even though that's looking more and more like it's not going to be his position. I have been liking him at center back. Then as I mentioned before, center backs not at their best today. Marcus Fernandes and Thomas Williams. I did like Williams on the ball, but defensively they were just getting kind of carved up. But as I mentioned before, they're not pro. Well, they are pro players, but they're not playing with the first team much. So like it is a bit tough for center backs in those spots. So I'm not going to be too harsh on them, but not the best today. And Alejandro Alvarado was putting in a pretty weak performance today, in my opinion. He's not playing much in Portugal right now, and he wasn't doing much defensively like Puskas. He wasn't getting involved in the play, and I think it was kind of hurting our build-up. So might want to get in a different midfielder for the next game, and hopefully Alvarado will really start to play a lot more next year because we saw his talent in the CONCACAF Nations League. He's one of our better box-to-box presences in the midfield. We've got a lot of really good technical players, but him and Puskas especially, they provide a bit of more of a bite in that midfield. I feel like they can play an 8 very well. So hopefully Alvarado will start to play more, and he'll start to do a lot better with this team. Then we had subs who came on, Jack McGlynn, Obed Vargas, Darren Yappy, as mentioned before. Yappy kind of had a decent impact when he came on. Um, we started to look a little bit better, but I'm not too sold on him, and I'm really crossing my fingers Pepe will come to the U20 World Cup. Then Michael Holiday, as mentioned before, did give up that 1 goal. Well, not he didn't give it up, but he got kind of burned. But I liked his energy going forward. He was bombing down the field a lot. Didn't get to impact the game too much, but I liked what he was doing. And I think it was Owen Wolf came on a little bit at the end. I didn't have the number for him, but judging by we only had one midfielder left to bring on. I think it was him, and he didn't impact the game too much. So yeah, it was a pretty disappointing game, but I thought we were hanging with France pretty well. Like our finishing was not on today, and I think 4-0 is a bit harsh for us. I think that we were playing pretty well. France was the better team, but I think that we can take a lot of positives from this performance. And I'm not bringing up our lacking of players as excuses. They were missing a good amount of guys as well. Honestly, the U19 team that France has, who's trying to qualify for the U19 Euros, might be a better team than this group, which is kind of scary. But France, hats off to them. They are performing really well. But I think we can take a lot of positives from this game. We were performing well. I liked us building out the back, and we were creating a couple of chances. So that's definitely good. We can take this momentum. Hopefully, we can play well against England as well. And even if we weren't set up to win, I liked how we were playing. I hope we treat that game with England the same way. And yeah, that's all I've got to talk about. See ya.